Okay, the title is Expressions. Review. And this is our fourth one, number 4. It takes most students a lot of practice to get this right. Okay, let's talk about distributive property. I'm gonna abbreviate that. If you remember distributive property, we take the outside number times each one inside. All right, that's distributive property. And to do that, we need to multiply. So let's just go over the rules of multiplying real quick. So here's a couple of situations we have. Positive times a positive, positive times a negative, negative times a negative. So positive times a positive is just positive. There's no negatives involved. But if there is one negative involved, when you're multiplying, if there's one negative, the answer is negative. But the weird thing is, if you're multiplying with two negatives, they cancel each other, and the answer is positive. Okay, so if you have one negative, there's going to be negative, but two of them cancel. All right, so let's just kind of separate that up. Next, we'll talk about combine like terms. Combine, and we'll just use LT for like terms. Combine like terms. And you know what? Let's just hold off on those rules. Let's do some distributive property first, and then we'll talk about combining like terms. So our first example. Okay, now what we're going to do is take the outside times the inside. So I have a 4 times, 4 times 3, or 3x. 4 times 3 is 12, so that's 12x, and there's no negatives. It's just positive times a positive, right? These are the rules we're using right here. Next I have 4 times, and this is a negative 1. Minus 1 and negative 1, treat them the same. 4 times 1 is 4, and I'm multiplying one negative. Okay, if you multiply with one negative, it's negative. The answer is negative. Negative and minus, treat them the same. And there's your answer. Okay, so when you use distributive, we're multiplying, think of these rules. One negative is negative, two negatives cancel. It's positive. Okay, second example. Okay, so we just go ahead and take the outside times the inside. So let's see, I have a negative 2 times excuse me, negative 5. 2 times 5 is 10, so that's a 10x, but I'm multiplying two negatives. Two negatives cancel, so it's positive 10x. Then I do negative 2 times positive 1. 2 times 1 is 2, and I'm using one negative. I'm multiplying with one negative, so the answer is negative, or minus, treat them the same. And that's it. That's all you can do. Okay, so distributive property, use these rules. So now, going to the rules of combining like terms. You have to think of zero pairs. One positive and one negative equals 0. A positive and a negative, they cancel each other out. They equal 0. It's called zero pairs. That's how you should think of it. And the situations you have either the same sign or they're different signs. You either have two positives or two negatives, or you have different, positive and a negative. When they're the same sign, we add the numbers. Add the numbers. When they're different signs, we subtract the numbers. So let's look at an example for the same sign. If we have -4 minus 3, that's the same thing as -4 and -3. It's the same thing. Subtracting 3 is the same thing as adding a -3. And so if I put those together, if I have 4 negatives and 3 negatives, that gives me a total of 7 negatives. 4 negatives and 3 negatives make 7 negatives. See, they're the same sign. They're both negative. Just add them up. That's a shortcut. All right, what about if they're different signs? So if I have -4 and 9. Okay, you treat it just like this. If they're different like this, remember one positive, one negative is 0. Okay, you can see that if you cancel off the zero pairs, there's more positive. There's much more positive. Matter of fact, so I subtract them. 9 take away 4 is 5. And there are more positive than negative. There's more positive. So the answer is +5. Now you don't have to write all these pluses and minuses here, but notice I have 4 negatives and 9 positives. There's a lot more positives. There's 5 more positives. This is why I subtract. But on the other one, they're both negative. I just have a bunch of negatives, 7 negatives. That's why I just added them. Here they're different, so I subtracted some. Okay, many of you already know this very well. I just thought I'd just repeat it for you one more time. Okay, let's go to our third example. Now we're not multiplying, we're just combining like terms. We're just gonna put together positives and negatives. All right, so let's see what we have for our coefficients. I have a positive 2x and a negative 8x. Positive 2 and negative 8. So remember, we're doing this right here. We're doing this. They're different signs you have to subtract. So let's see, they're different signs. 8 take away 2 is 6. And there's more negative than there is positive. So it's negative 6x. Okay, what about the constants? I have a negative 5 and a positive 9. Okay, so I'm putting these together. So they're different, so I subtract them. 9 take away 5 is 4. And there's more positive. There's more positive. So it's a +4. And there you go. Okay, now we're going to use both rules. We're going to first do distributive property, then we'll use combined like terms. So here's example number 4. Okay, now remember, we always do distributive property first. So, let's see, I have a positive 3, right? Do that, don't add first, do this. 3 times 3 is 9, it's 9x, and they're both positive, so it's positive 9x. 3 times negative 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and there's one negative. Well, one negative means it's negative. All right, I need to bring this 7 down. And remember, this is a positive 9x, so put a plus in front of it then. Okay, so now let's combine like terms. What do we have? We have a 9x. Okay, that's all by itself, so 9x. And then we have a 7 and a negative 9. 7 and negative 9 put together. So let's see. There's 9 take away 7 since is 2, and there's more negative. And that's all you can do. Okay, I've reached the bottom of mine, so I'm going to go back up to the top, the other side. Okay, so here's number 5. Okay, so we want to do distributive first. Don't subtract. Do distributive first. So we have 2 times 4, negative 2 times 4x. 2 times 4 is 8, so that's 8x. And there's one negative, so that's negative. Now I'll do negative 2 times 5. 2 times 5 is 10. I count the negative signs, one negative, so it is negative. Now I need to bring down this 6. All right, now I need to combine like terms. When combining like terms, remember, if it's the same sign, you add them, and if it's different signs, you subtract. Let's see, I have a negative 8x, and that's it for there. That's for the coefficients. Now for the constants, I have a 6 and a negative 10. They're different signs, so I subtract. 10 take away 6 is 4, and there's more negative, so it's going to be negative. Remember, we just want to know if we have more hot or cold, and we have a lot more cold. 4 more. Okay, number 6. Okay, remember our first step is to do distributive property. So 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's 15x. 3 times negative 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And there's one negative. So it is a negative or minus, you can think of. Same result. Now I have negative 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. 12x. And there's one negative. So it's negative or minus 12x. Then I'm going to do the same thing times 1. 4 times 1 is 4. And there's one negative. Multiplying with one negative, so it is a negative. Okay, now I need a combined like terms. So we did these rules. One negative is negative, two negatives cancel. Now we're on to these rules. Think of hot and cold. Same sign add, different sign subtract. So I'll put together my coefficients. I have a 15x, and that's a negative 12x. All right, let's see. 15, they're different, so I subtract them. 15 take away 12 is 3, and there's more positive, so it's positive 3x. Now we'll do the constants. Okay, that's negative 6 and negative 4. They're the same sign, so I just add them up. 6 negatives and 4 negatives would make 10 negatives. And that's all you can do. Okay, last problem, number 7. Okay, so here's a problem. So you know we're going to just go ahead and put together the coefficients. 9x and 2x. Okay, then I have negative 4 and positive 1. 4 and they're going to have to subtract them. They're different signs. 4 take away 1 is 3, and there's more negative though. And that is the answer. But one thing here, and that's this. One thing to note, they may do this. They may put parentheses right there. And you know what? It won't affect the answer at all. It won't affect the answer. It's just as though the parentheses are not there. All right, so again, remember the rules for doing distributive property, multiplying rules, and now we have combining like terms rules.